Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing. So we're on the second of the two Zendikar Rising Commander decks. This is the blue-black sneak attack with Anowon the Ruin Thief as the commander. There's no alternate commanders in these decks like there is in the yearly commander product. But hopefully we'll see other legendary creatures in here which can be used to build other commander decks with the right addition of the relevant cards. So what else is in here if you haven't seen the other video that I did? So we have a 100 card deck with 3 new cards. Deck box, which as I pointed out in the other video will actually fit a sleeved deck, and 10 double-sided token cards. There's also a life wheel, strategy insert and a reference card. So let's have a look at what else we have on the back here. We've got choose your commander and overcome both friend and foe in this definitive multiplayer Magic format. Ally with Anowon and lead an army of rogues to take what is rightfully yours. The larger your collective, the more your influence grows. So clearly this set sounds like rogue tribal. And Anowon the Ruin Thief, formerly a renowned mage and scholar. Anowon's reputation and fortune have diminished in recent years with the appearance of the ancient core Skyclaves. He knows his return to glory lies deep in the ruins and he'll do anything to find it. So let's have a look. Oh yeah, I forgot this is the one with the ton of cardboard in it. Oops, be careful here. Well, these are tricky to open without ruining the card. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's our deck box with the extra space, and that one, as I've said, fit a 100 card sleeve deck. Not very robust though, so okay, we have an insert which just gives us a bit of backstory about Anowon, a little bit about playing the deck, and then some quick facts to help you play Commander. So these two decks are definitely aimed at, I suppose, more beginner Commander players. Although saying that, you know, such is the synergies of the format that often they are still can be quite complex to play if you're used to other formats. And so on this, the spin down counter, on one side you have 40 down to 21, and on the other side you have 20 down to 1. It's just focusing on the on-color commander we have here. Anowon the Ruin Thief, 2 blue black, 2/4 legendary creature vampire rogue. Other rogues you control get +1/+1. Whenever one or more rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, that player mills a card for each 1 damage dealt to them. If the player mills at least 1 creature card this way, you draw a card. Okay, so you've got a bit of mill going on here. To mill a card, a player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. So we have a blue-black mill deck that leverages that and cares about other rogues. So what I'm going to do is again go with these commander products. I tend to go through the whole deck, and particularly highlighting the higher rarity cards, plus anything which might have a relevant synergy or have maybe an ability on it that is unusual, or one that just needs a bit of explanation. So we've got Etherize in the deck. So this is at uncommon. 3 and a blue, instant, return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Distant Melodies in here. 3 and a blue, sorcery, choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. Fact or Fiction is in the deck. 3 and a blue, instant, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards in 2 piles. Put 1 card into your hand and the other put one pile onto your hand and the other, hang on, what am I doing here? Put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. It's better. Fairy Vandal. So 1 and a blue, creature fairy rogue with it's 1/2 with flash and flying. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on a fairy vandal. So that's leveraging the card draw element of the synergy from the commander. Invisible Stalker's in here with hexproof, and it also can't be blocked. So 1 and a blue for a 1/1. Latchkey Fairy. 3 and a blue, 3/1 flying with prowl. So with prowl, the prowl cost is 2 and a blue. You may cast this for its prowl cost if you dealt combat damage to a player this turn with a fairy or rogue. When Latchkey Fairy enters the battlefield, if its prowl cost was paid, draw a card. Meringue River Prowler, creature human rogue. Can't block and can't be blocked. You may cast it from your graveyard as long as you control a black or green permanent. So the only way that's going to trigger is in this deck with a black permanent, because there's no green permanents in here. Master Thief, 2 and 2 blue, it's human rogue, it's 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target artifact for as long as you control Master Thief. Military Intelligence is in here. It's 1 and a blue enchantment. That cares about whether you attack with 2 or more creatures, and if you do, you draw a card. Night Veil Sprite, 1 and a blue creature fairy rogue with flying, has Surveil on it, so whenever Night Veil Sprite attacks, Surveil 1, look at the top card of your library, you may put that card into your graveyard, and it's 1/2. Open into Wonder, X and 2 blue sorcery, X target creatures can't be blocked this turn. Until end of turn, those creatures gain, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So there's a number of creatures we've seen already in the deck, cards which have abilities relevant to basically blocking or making things unblockable. And obviously when you've got a card that talks about, rogues doing combat damage to a player, then that's synergizing with that. Oops. Yeah, and see another one here, Slitherblade, can't be blocked. Blue for 1/2. Triton's Shorestalker, single blue, 1/1. Another card, can't be blocked. Whirler Rogue, 2 and 2 blue for 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colour Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. So we're going to see some Thopter tokens here. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Changeling Outcast. It's single black 1/1. Changeling. Changelings are really useful in tribal decks because, of course, when you've got cards that say things like whenever other rogues you control get XX or rogue this, rogue that, and you have a changing card, a changing is every creature type, so it counts as a rogue. Changing Outcast can't block and can't be blocked. Endless Obedience, 4 and 2 black, sorcery with Convoke on it. So you can use creatures to help you cast the spell. Each creature you tap while casting this spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's colour. Put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So that plays to the mill. Notice it says from a graveyard. That could be any graveyard. So if you've been milling your opponents through Anawan's ability, then you can leverage those rather overstocked graveyards. Frog Tosser Banneret, 1 and a black creature, goblin rogue with haste. Goblin spells and rogue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Marsh Flitter, 3 and a black fairy rogue with flying. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 and 1 black goblin rogue creature tokens. You sacrifice a goblin. Marsh Flitter has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn, and it's usually a 1/1. Murder is in the deck. That destroys a target creature for a cost of 1 and 2 black. Una's Blackguard, 1 and a black 1/1 creature fairy rogue with flying. Each other rogue creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. So you've got more mill going on here. Price of Fame, 3 and a black. This spell costs 2 less to cast. If it targets a legendary creature, destroy target creature, and it's got Surveil 2 on it. So you can look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest on top of your library in any order. It's going to be interesting as we go through the deck how many more cards leverage the mill effects that are going on here, the discard effects, because I'm not sure if there's any cards in here which are actually going to use mill as a method of killing an opponent, but we'll see. I think maybe it's going to be more the case of leveraging the fact that you're going to have overstocked graveyards. There's a couple of cards in blue and black which possibly could be in here. We'll see. That effectively would make like a combo, a mill combo, but we'll see whether it goes down that route and whether that's there as a potential win, well, not a win condition, but a kill condition to just at least get rid of one of your opponents. Rise from the grave, 4 and a black. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That creature is a black zombie in addition to other colours and types. So what you want to see here when you've got these graveyard interactions is cards are going to be really useful in the deck where they potentially could interact with anybody's graveyard, not just your own. Stink Drinker Bandit, another card with Prowl on it, 1 and a black. Whenever a rogue you control attacks and isn't blocked, it gets +2/+1 until end of turn. So we got our first legendary creature. It's a mono black Seer Conrad the Grim, 3, 2 black, 5/4 legendary creature human knight. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, so through milling, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, and you've seen that there's some graveyard recursion going on here. Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. 1 and a black, each player mills a card. Zilliport Cutthroat, 1 on the black. Whenever Zilliput Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Extract from Darkness, another mill card. 3 blue-black. Each player mills 2 cards. Then you put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Soul Manipulation. 1 blue-black. Choose 1 or both. Counter target creature spell. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Now we move on to some artifacts. So we've got Arcane Signet. That was in the other deck. Very useful addition. This is an expensive common. It's 2 to cast, tap, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Commander Spheres in this deck, 3 to cast, tap, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Enigma Thief, 5 and 2 green. So we're now getting on to the rares. I've basically read out most of the cards so far that weren't rare or above, simply because of the fact that the synergy seems really high in this deck. And it's definitely been worthwhile pointing out how you're seeing this sort of graveyard mill interaction going on in the deck. So Creature Sphinx Rogue 5/5 with Prowl for 3 and a blue. So this one, Prowl cost is, you may cast this spell for its Prowl cost if you dealt combat damage to a player this turn with a Sphinx or a Rogue. It's got flying, and when an Enigma Thief enters the battlefield for each opponent, return up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls to its owner's hand. So we've got some bounce going on there. Whisper Steel Dagger, 3 and a black. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. So this will be interesting because you've seen in the deck, again, something I was keen to point out early on. There's a number of unblockable creatures. So when you've got unblockable creatures in a deck, then it's not unusual to see artifact equipment that's leveraged that will be attached to those creatures. And we'll just see what this does if this is attached, obviously, to an unblocked creature or an unblockable creature. And then whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a creature spell from that player's graveyard this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any colour to cast that spell, equipped for 3. Notorious Thong, 3 and a blue with a Prowl for 5 and a blue. So it in the Prowl rules text there, it cares about rogues. Create X/1/1 black fairy rogue creature tokens with flying, where X is the damage dealt to your opponents this turn. If this spell's Prowl cost was paid, take an extra turn after this one. Okay. Scourge of the Fleets is in here. 5 and 2 blue, 6/6. When Scourge of the Fleets enters the battlefield, return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. Stolen Identity, 4/2 blue. Create a token that's a copy of a target artifact or creature. Cipher. You may exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. Fated Return, 4 and 3 black. Instant, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains indestructible. If it's your turn, scry 2. Another legendary here in black. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, 2 and 2 black. 2/3 with Death Touch. It's an Aetherborn Rogue. When Gonti, Lord of Luxury, enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. You may look at and cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana cost as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. In Garrick's Wake, 7 and 2 black. Sorcery, destroy all creatures you don't control, and all planeswalkers you don't control. Necromantic Selection, 4 and 3 black. Sorcery, destroy all creatures Then return a creature card put into your graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. It's a black zombie in addition to its other colours and types, exile, necromantic selection. Night Howlers in the deck. 1 and 2 black enchantment creature horror. It's a 0/0 with bestow on it. So I don't think we've seen any bestow cards in this deck yet. If you cast a spell for its bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. It becomes a creature again if it's not attached to a creature. Night Howler, an enchanted creature. Each get +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So again, leveraging the fact that hopefully you've been milling stuff into graveyards, and when you're in a multiplayer game, that obviously is going to get fairly large. So I believe that card would have come from Theros block. I'm not too sure which set in there, but certainly from that block. Ogre Slumlord, 3 and 2 black, creature ogre rogue. Whenever another non-land creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black rat creature token. Rats you control have death touch. Sepulchral Primordial, 5 and 2 black, 5/4 creature avatar, has intimidate on it, so this one can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or other creatures that share a colour with it. So in this case, artifact or black. Then when Sepulchral Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent you may put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Consuming Aberration, 3 blue black, star. Consuming Aberration's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then puts those cards into their graveyard. Yeah, there's a number of very interesting blue-black horrors throughout Magic's history. Okay, so we do have a blue-black legendary creature in here. 2 blue, 2 black, 3/3 legendary creature shapeshifter. It's at mythic level, mythic rarity. It's hexproof. Whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may have Lazov Dimir Mastermind become a copy of that card, except its name is Lazov Dimir Mastermind. It's legendary in addition to its other types, and it has hexproof and this ability. Notion Thief, 2 and 2 blue black, 3/1 with flash. Human Rogue. If an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead that player skips that draw step and you draw a card. Okay. Another blue black legendary. Una, Queen of the Fae. I did wonder if this would be in here actually. 3 blue black hybrid. Legendary creature, fairy, wizard, 5/5 with flying. X blue black. Choose a colour. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library. For each card of the chosen colour exiled this way, create a 1/1 blue and black fairy rogue creature token with flying. Sunumgar's Command. 3 blue black. Instant, choose 2, choose counter target non-creature spell, return target permanent to its owner's hand, target creature gets -3/-3 end of turn, or destroy target planeswalker. So you can do any 2 out of those 4. Spinal Embrace, 3 blue black instant, cast this spell only during combat. Untap target creature you don't control and gain control of it. It gains haste until end of turn. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice it. If you do, you gain life equal to its toughness. Sig River Cutthroat, another legendary creature in blue black. This is blue black hybrid. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn, you may draw a card. So 1/3. So the cool thing in this deck is there seems to be a number of legendaries, which obviously contribute to the deck, just their abilities, but also there's potential there to build other decks. Obviously, not all of the cards in this deck are going to necessarily synergize optimally with those legendaries, but certainly through the purchasing other cards or introducing other cards from your collection, there's probably a number of interesting decks that you could build. If you get bored with this one. Black Blade Reforged, 2 colorless to cast, legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Equipped legendary creature 3. Equipped 7. Obviously useful to put that on unblockable. Bone Horde is in here, so 4 colorless. Artifact creature. This is a living weapon. I'm trying to remember now. This came out in the artifact block. Was it Scars of Mirrodin? I think it was in that block. So the living weapons actually come with an equipment with a germ token. So when this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 black germ creature token, then attach this to it. Equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards, and equip 2. So of course that means the equipment's sort of ready to go when it enters the battlefield. It's already on its own sort of creature token, albeit a 0/0. Obelisk of Erd, 6 to cast. It's got Convoke, so you can use creatures to help you cast the spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's colour. As Obelisk of Erd enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, which obviously in this deck is going to be Rogue, I would imagine. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +2/+2. So you can see this is a tribal all-star really. So a useful card to have for this and many other tribal decks. Another living weapon, 5 to cast. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life, rounded up, equipped for 3. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that some of our tokens are germ tokens. Yeah, I figured there'd be some sort of mana rocks in here that are specific to the colour combination, and we've got one here in the form of Dimir Kirun, 3 to cast, tap, add blue or black, and also you can pay blue or black. Dimir Kirun becomes a 2/2 blue and black horror artifact creature until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. So that's a sort of alternative thing you can do with the card. It turns into a creature if you need that, as opposed to using the mana or generating mana. We've got Dimir Locket, 3 to cast, tap, add blue or black, and for 4 blue black hybrid mana, tap it, sacrifices Dimir Locket, draw 2 cards. Yeah, I had a feeling there'd be signets in here. This makes sense when you've got those other mana rocks as well. So 2 to cast. This acts as a filter, so you pay 1 mana of any colour, tap it, add blue black. Heirloom Blade, 3 to cast. Equipped creature gets +3/+1. Whenever a equipped creature dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, equipped for 1. Mind Stones in this deck, popular in Commander, 2 to cast, tap, add colourless mana, 1 tap, sacrifice Mind Stone, draw a card. Soul Ring's in here, which I think is, well, it has been in every single of the pre-con commanders so far. 1 to cast, tap, add 2 colourless. Command Tower's in here. So land, tap, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Yeah, I thought we'd see these. So in this deck it's blue black, so no surprise we've got the dual lands, or the dual bounce lands from original Ravnica reprinted in here. So it enters the battlefield tapped, and also when it does it when it enters the battlefield. You have to bounce a land back to your hand, but once it becomes untapped, you can tap for both blue and black. The guild gates in here, the blue-black one, Dimir guild gate. Dismal Backwater, which is another dual land, and when it enters the battlefield you gain life, but it does come in tapped. Dwar Refuge, same thing basically. Myriad Landscape, these crop up. Enter battlefield tap, add colourless to your mana, cost of 2, you can tap, sacrifice it and search your library for up to 2 basic lands that share a land type, put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Rogue's Passage is in here, so this is useful in a deck which where you want creatures to be unblockable, so no surprise to see it in here. Tap to add colourless, 4 tap, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Submerged Boneyard's in here. It's a tap land. Once it untaps taps for blue or black, no extra abilities on there. We've got Merfolk Windrobber, single blue flying 1/1. Whenever Merfolk Windrobber deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card. Sacrifice Merfolk Windrobber, draw a card, activate this ability only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. So what's that? One more than Threshold. Sure-footed Infiltrator, Sure-footed Infiltrator, 3 and a blue, creature Merfolk Rogue, tap another untapped rogue you control. Sure-footed Infiltrator can't be blocked this turn. Whenever Sure-footed Infiltrator deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's a 2/3. Soaring Thought Thief, blue-black 1/3 creature human rogue with flash and flying. As long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, rogues you control get +1/+0. Whenever one or more rogues you control attack, each opponent mills 2 cards. Okay, so I think here what we're going to see is the recent Zendikar plain set. These will be the lands from there, I think. Yeah, I must admit I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to see islands. It's basically the same artwork all the way through. And swamps. Yeah, my memory is terrible. I just can't remember. Normally they would pull the artwork from there, but certainly it's all single artwork. Okay, so let's move on to our tokens. So here's the Thopter tokens. And Fairy Rogue. So Thopter Fairy Rogue. Thopter Fairy Rogue. Yeah, something was generating Goblin Rogues. Another Fairy Rogue. Goblin Fairy. Yeah, something was generating Rat tokens, if you remember. More Fairy Rogues. More Rats. Fairy Rogues. More Rats. Fairy Rogues. More Rats. Fairy Rogues. Rat, Fairy Rogue, and there's our germ token with a Fairy Rogue. And at the very last we have this sort of handy reminder about how turns work in Magic and some popular Magic formats. So that is actually a really interesting deck. I think just on what I've seen, and the problem with this is, it's been a week since I did the last one. I actually, in some ways, prefer this deck. It's certainly interesting to see how Mill is leveraged in here. What I don't see, and I wondered if they'd be tempted to do it, is some sort of Mill combos where it would be possible to just really mill at least one opponent. Now, of course, in a multiplayer, that's not always a good thing to do. But I was wondering whether they would try and sort of slip in some combo kill condition to basically just get rid of one player. And that's it. That is a possibility with this deck, that you could go down that avenue. There's some sort of blue-black combos that certainly would facilitate that. So that's on a 1, the Ruined Thief. 2 blue-black, legendary creature, vampire, rogue. Other rogues you control get +1/+1. It's a 2/4. And whenever one or more rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, that player mills a card for each 1 damage dealt to them. If the player mills at least 1 creature card this way, you draw a card. Yeah, I really like this deck, actually. It looks super interesting. Again, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out in real life. But there's, the addition of a number of interesting legendaries in there as well means that this is, I think, a nice deck, because it's gone down the sort of tribal rabbit hole. There's a few cards in here which could be played in other decks from a tribal perspective. So, there's a reusability with this, but also there's some interesting, through the other legendaries, there's some interesting sort of other decks you could build with different cards, which would open up like a nice little, sort of blue-black commander toolkit almost here. You could probably maybe get through a few more blue-black staples, and then start going down various avenues with that. Get some mono black staples, get some mono blue staples, get some different equipment maybe, and then start exploring not only within the deck different, strengthening different of the sub themes in here over the expense of others, but also exploring themes that some of those legendary creatures would expose to you if you went down that particular theme, like rabbit hole. Anyway, I think I'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. It's been another enjoyable video to do. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye for now.